Welcome to the channel, and in this video I wanted to make a list of what I hope to see come out in the next year. I started out making a list of like 10 movies, but then it just spiraled out of control, and now I have a list of over 20 movies. They're not in any particular order, so let's get into the video. First up is... Next year will mark the 30-year anniversary of this movie, and we're also getting the sequel to the reboot from a few years ago, so I hope we get some sort of cool release next year. More than likely, we'll get the movie on 4K and a steelbook release for us collectors. I've been a huge fan of this franchise since I was a kid. It's one of my favorite video game series, and I watch both the 90s movies all the time. Annihilation is one of the worst sequels, but I still enjoy it, and I hope they put it out on 4K as well, because I would definitely buy it. Next are two Van Damme classics, and as of right now, this 2-pack is the only way to own these movies on Blu-ray. It's a bare bones release, and it's just weird that most of Van Damme's popular films have gotten pretty cool releases, except these two films. Bloodsport is arguably his fan favorite movie, and it was his breakout film. Time Cop was probably his most financially successful film, and is one of my favorites, so I hope we finally get awesome releases for these two movies. Next is one of my top 3 favorite movies of all time, with Dark City. This movie doesn't get enough recognition, and I feel that if Warner Brothers were to put it out on 4K, or let a boutique label put it out and deliver the definitive release of this movie, that way this movie can find a much larger audience, because this movie is criminally underappreciated. Either way, I'll be buying it day one, and if you're curious about this movie, then I would tell you to only watch the director's cut. The theatrical cut explains the movie away in the opening narration. Please give this crime noir sci-fi thriller a watch to make Warner Brothers more keen to put this movie back out. Next is one of my favorite coming of age movies, and well, just one of my favorite movies period. Hence why it's featured in the opening for my videos. So this movie never got a Blu-ray, but Sony put it out on 4K in their Sony Pictures 30th anniversary box set, and that's currently the only way to own this movie outside of the DVD and this UMD. So please Sony, put this out on its own and I will be very happy. I know Matthew Lillard will always be remembered for Scooby-Doo or Scream, but this is objectively his best movie and I highly recommend checking it out. Next is Near Dark, and this movie has been rumored to get a new release for like the past 5 years. I don't know what the holdup is. I don't think there is a horror fan that doesn't like this movie and is always mentioned whenever cinephiles talk about the best vampire movies. It's also directed by Catherine Bigelow, who's probably the most prolific female director there is in Hollywood. This Blu-ray is long out of print and the cover art makes it look more like a Twilight movie. So I hope 2025 is the year I can finally retire this old Blu-ray. Next is The Losers, and I put this on the list because I just rewatched it, and this movie is just a lot of fun, and I feel like it's been forgotten a little bit. So a re-release would be nice so people can discover this gem of a comic book movie. Next year will be the movie's 15th anniversary, so just maybe we'll get something, but if not, hopefully this video will give the movie some more fans. It's a fun action movie with a great cast, and if you like it, check out the comic book it was based on, which is also really fucking good. Next is The Guest, and this got a really awesome 4K edition from Second Sight in the UK, but has yet to get a collector's edition here. We'll definitely not get something as collector friendly here, but Universal does license out their movies, so there's a chance that maybe Arrow Video will get to put it out in one of their limited edition box sets. This movie is a bit of a cult classic now, and the Second Sight limited edition set sold out pretty quickly, so I hope Universal sees that this movie deserves the special edition treatment here in the States. Next up are the Blade sequels. We got the first one on 4K back in 2020, but are still yet to get the sequels. Guillermo del Toro has said that he's working on the 4K restoration of Blade 2, so I think it's safe to say that we'll be getting that next year. But because I'm a completionist, I'd also like to see Blade Trinity also get released. I know that movie kinda sucks, but I have a little bit of a soft spot for it. I'm sure Warner Brothers will put these out themselves, and they'll probably end up doing limited edition steelbooks for them, but probably no new special features, which is always unfortunate. Next is Dead Alive, and Peter Jackson has been saying this movie will get a new home video release for quite some time, along with his other films that he made prior to making Lord of the Rings. The only way to buy this movie currently is to hunt down this DVD, because the Blu-ray is long out of print and goes for a pretty penny on the secondary market. I think 2025 will finally be the year this movie gets re-released, unless Jackson is too busy making more Beatles documentaries. Next is another one of my favorite vampire movies, Daybreakers. Lionsgate has already put this out on 4K, but since they like to re-release their genre films in a cool steelbook, then I think this movie is a perfect candidate. I'd like to see this movie get more recognition, so putting it back out might garner some newfound appreciation for this film. Next up is The Descent, and I think that it's still owned by Lionsgate, but this is yet to get the 4K treatment, and we've been stuck with this Blu-ray since 2006. So putting this out on 4K would really benefit this movie, since the movie primarily takes place in a cave, so it would really enhance all those dimly lit scenes. Also, this movie is a classic, and anyone who is the slightest bit claustrophobic would really dread watching this movie. Honestly, them squeezing through all those tunnels might be even scarier than the cave-dwelling creatures they come in contact with. Next up is Bronson, and this is another movie I just want an awesome edition of. It was the movie that really put Tom Hardy on the map, along with director Nicholas Winding Refn, who would go on to make Drive right after this. I can see maybe Kino, Lorber, or Criterion getting a hold of this movie. Either way, this movie is overdue for a new edition. Next up is Children of Men. This is a movie that's kinda shocking that it hasn't made the jump to 4K yet. I watched this movie in my first film class for all the action scenes that were shot in one take, or at least made to look like it was shot in one take. I could see Universal putting this out themselves, or once again, I'd hope they license it out to Arrow Video, because they would absolutely put out a great edition. Also, since this is a 2-pack and includes Repo Men, I'd like that movie to get a cool release, because I think it's actually a pretty solid action movie. The next 3 movies are films that Arrow Video has already put out, but since I missed out on their limited edition releases, I hope Arrow will put them out again, but on 4K, because they've done it for their other movies they previously put out on Blu-ray when they re-released their limited editions, but now in 4K. Creepshow 2, Blood Rage, and Bride of Reanimator are at the top of my wish list and have contemplated on buying their limited editions on eBay, but I won't have to if they put them out again on 4K. Next is King of New York, and it's a bit of an underrated gangster movie. This does have a Blu-ray, and I've been holding out on getting it because I think Lionsgate will put this out on 4K. Fun fact about this movie, Christopher Walken's character, Frank White, was actually referenced in a Biggie Smalls song.
Biggie Smalls trying to turn into the black Frank White.
Next is Sin City, and this movie is definitely bound to get a 4K release in the future. This movie was owned by the Weinsteins, but now that the rights to their movies have been divvied up across a few different studios, I think it's only a matter of time. The sequel, A Dame to Kill For, was put out by Shout Factory, so maybe they'll be the ones putting it out. I just hope they add new special features because this movie was just so unique for its time and was pretty much a shot-for-shot recreation of Frank Miller's comics. Next is Constantine, and it's pretty much been confirmed that a 4K is coming out next year. Warner Brothers will be putting it out, but there's still no word on whether they're going to do a limited steelbook. Warner Brothers doesn't usually add any new special features, but I hope they do for this. And maybe if it sells well, it'll help get the sequel made we've been waiting for the past 20 years. Next is another vampire movie with 30 Days of Night. This Blu-ray was released back in 2008, and it's all we've had since then. With 2000s horror movies getting more releases from boutique labels as of late, then this would be the perfect one to get the collector's edition treatment. Sony owns this film, and they've worked with Scream Factory in the past, so more than likely I'd see them putting it out. Next, I'm hoping we finally get a proper Nightmare on Elm Street box set. This Blu-ray set is the best thing we have for this series, and it's just such a shame when most of these well-known horror series have gotten great box sets or single releases for each film in the series. The first Elm Street got a 4K this year, and that movie has gotten dozens of releases over the years, along with the remake, but the sequels have been relegated to this collection, so please Warner Brothers, don't fuck this up and give us a proper box set. The last movie on my wish list is Fright Night Part 2, and it's yet another vampire movie, but this movie has just been lost on home video since DVD. I bought this bootleg off of eBay, but I think you can still watch this HD version on YouTube actually. I think the rights have been in limbo for quite a while, but it's at the top of most lists for physical media fans. I'm hoping 2025 marks the year this movie finally comes back into print. Thanks for watching the video. Let me know what you hope to see come out in 2025. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a movie time.
Your movement of the people, by the people, and for the people got you nothing. I love you guys. Don't get me wrong. It's all about this. But for the first time in my life, I'm 18 and I can say, fuck you!